Hello and welcome to this week's STEM lesson. This week's lesson is about floods. A flood can be defined simply as too much water in the wrong place. This applies to situations ranging from flooded basements to huge tracts of the Mississippi Basin. Water is everywhere on our planet. It is the only known substance that can exist as a gas, liquid, and a solid within a small range of air temperatures and pressures found at the Earth's surface. It is the basis of life as we know it. The human body is more than 98% water. The Earth's water content is approximately 331 million cubic miles, with 96.5% of that found in the oceans, seas, and bays. Now, 1.7% is found on the polar ice caps. Another 1.7% is stored in groundwater, lakes, rivers, streams, and in soil. And only 1,000th of 1% exists as water vapor in the atmosphere. Floodwater comes primarily from rain as the result of a process called the hydraulic cycle. 90% of the water that enters the atmosphere is evaporated from oceans, rivers, and lakes from the heat of the sun. 10% of the water is released into the atmosphere by plants by a process called transpiration. As an example of how much transpiration can affect the hydraulic cycle, 1 acre of a cornfield can transpire as much as 4,000 gallons of water every single day. When people strip the land of vegetation, a considerable component of water removal is lost. When water falls as precipitation, such as rain, snow, sleet, and hail, some of it evaporates back into the atmosphere, some seeps into the ground as soil moisture and groundwater, and the rest flows into rivers and streams, eventually finding its way into oceans or other large bodies of water. When the ground becomes saturated and cannot absorb the runoff, river levels rise. Overflowing rivers naturally spill over their banks onto floodplains. Humans try to prevent this from happening by building levees and dams. Since 1900, floods have claimed more than 10,000 lives in the U.S. alone. The New Orleans Hurricane Katrina flood in 2005 is a recent catastrophic flood. The Category 5 hurricane caused levee breaks and massive flood in a highly populated area. The storm surges flooded 80% of the city. Some parts of the city were under 20 feet of water. After a disastrous evacuation of around 300,000 residents and at least 1,600 fatalities, many thousands were displaced due to destruction of their homes, buildings, and other urban infrastructure. This was the deadliest U.S. hurricane since 1928 and the costliest in U.S. history, with around $75 billion in damages. Okay, so the image behind me is damage done from Hurricane Katrina. On one side is damage in the New Orleans, Louisiana area. As you can see, there was almost total destruction. Only a few homes were left standing, as you can see here, and up there. Now, here at the bottom is a very large object. I had to look it up and ask around to find out what it is. It's a barge used along the Mississippi River to haul goods. Somehow, it ended up in a neighborhood completely out of the river. Now, this is over 195 feet long. And right down here is a school bus. On the opposite side is the same neighborhood rebuilt. This gives you an idea of how much was lost. This type of flooding happened after levees broke during a huge storm surge that Katrina brought in with it. Flash floods is another type of flooding that can occur anywhere, in mountains or flat terrain. They are often caused by heavy rainfall of a short duration in a fairly localized area. It is the sudden and unpredictable nature that makes flash floods so dangerous. Typical mountain weather patterns generate sudden thunderstorms on sunny days, creating tremendous runoff in regions where the ground is poorly equipped to absorb the water. Now, the rain during these storms is channeled into gullies and ravines, quickly turning quiet streams into fast-flowing rivers. Walls of water and sediment travel down river valleys, raising the river level several feet in a few seconds. The resulting flooding can extend downstream well beyond the area from the storm itself. Floods can be far more dangerous than just washing away soil and saturating everything with water and silt. Floods can destroy drainage and sewage systems in urban areas, causing raw sewage to be released into waterways. Severe floods can actually destroy buildings and other facilities, releasing all kinds of toxic materials into the water, including oil, gasoline, pesticide, and various other chemicals. Chemicals end up making their way through the water cycle into the rivers, lakes, and oceans. People are left without sanitation systems, drinking water, electricity, phone lines, homes, and workplaces. The cost of floods can be in the billions of dollars and completely changing life in some areas. In non-urbanized areas, such as the wilderness, flooding regenerates the natural environment, creating beautiful meadows, wetlands, and riparian zones, which is where the rivers and the lands meet. In natural areas, floods spread nutrient-rich topsoil and remove silt and plant debris from floodplains. The preservation of natural floodplains can accommodate floodwaters and reduce flood damages. Now, lastly, I'd like to mention a few things most people are unaware of. 80% of flood deaths occur in vehicles, and most happen when drivers make a single fatal mistake trying to drive through the floodwaters. Now, just 6 inches of fast-moving floodwater can knock a person down. A mere 2 feet of water can float a large vehicle, even a bus. 1/3 of flooded roads and bridges are so damaged by water that any vehicle trying to cross stands only a 50% chance of making it to the other side. So if you see fast-moving water, it's best to stay out of it. Now, thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and we'll see you next week. Bye.